Fox Movie Tone brings you the world's news. Lowell Thomas speaking.
Rome. In a blazing radio address, Mussolini proclaims his decision, war. Despite the League of Nations, Italy will conquer Ethiopia. Addis Ababa. Haile Selassie protests to the League that the Italians have already invaded Ethiopia. So the Emperor orders complete mobilization. He marshals his hosts of fighting men to defend his frontiers. Movie Tone has already shown us the Ethiopians swarming north to Eritrea, and the massing of Mussolini's legions in Eritrea. And now the tribesmen are hurrying south towards Somaliland. We go by railroad across the Iwash River to Harar, the southern war capital. The train rattles across desolate country the Italians will have to fight across. And then we come to a strategic river and bridge. An inevitable target for sky attack. It's the Iwash River, but it will be no Iwash when the bombers come. European diplomats leading the war-haunted country. This railroad is of vital importance, and so is the city of Harar. Metropolis of southeastern Ethiopia, it's a Mohammedan city in Christian Ethiopia. Lawrence Stallings and the Movie Tone Ethiopian expedition film warlike scenes in this remote East African town. Modern trucks, American trucks, rush streams of soldiers to the threatened points of attack near Italian Somaliland. Johnny the Ethiopian is going to war and saying goodbye. The fever of war is burning in Harar. Boys play with guns. The women offer to fight beside their men. We find the Chief of Staff of the Southern Armies with Mohammedan minarets in the background. And he's a Mohammedan, a Turk, Wahab Pasha, Mohammedan fighting for Christian Ethiopia. Mussolini's generals will meet a soldier skilled in modern battle, veteran of the World War, a Turkish commander at the Dardanelles where the British were beaten, and he won 3 battles from the Russians. Haile Selassie was the hereditary governor of Harar before he became King of Kings. This land was conquered by the great Emperor Menelik, who beat the Italians at Adwa. He subjugated the native tribes of the Gallas and gave the province to Haile Selassie's father. The emperor orders every man to the fighting front, by motor truck and by camel. Haile Selassie, Lion of Judah, defends his home province. The emperor broadcasts an impassioned plea to the outside world to save Ethiopia from Italian conquest. The president of the Ethiopian parliament speaks, and an American radio man introduces the emperor, especially to America.
Hello, America. This is Addis Ababa.
He defends his country's cause, calls upon the world to stop the war, and declares that Ethiopia is firmly for peace.
Le peuple éthiopien est fermement attaché à la paix, mais il est en même temps...
A nation praying for peace but ready to fight to the last. Rome deciding war. The League of Nations preparing to impose penalties. The clash of arms, the thunders of battle seem more terrifying, as at the radio station of Addis Ababa, the Emperor Haile Selassie pleads for peace.
Il assiste dans leur effort pour le maintien de la paix.
The city is crowded and uneasy, agitated by the approach of war. Even the traffic cop is tense and nerve-strained. Tribal chieftains, feudal lords, each with his armed retainers. The masked marvel, maybe he wears the mask because of the dust. Polite these lords of the tribes, saluting a fellow chieftain. A minor chief they call a shum with a small band of followers. A whole host of armed retainers testify to the power of a mighty noble, a Ras. The warlike barons of Ethiopia trooping into Addis Ababa, hot for battle, offering themselves to their emperor, Haile Selassie, King of Kings. No barbaric chieftain of the warlike tribes, he's clever, suave, wise, playing his country's game against a great European power and modern war machine. Religion inspires Ethiopia in its hour of peril. Great hosts throng for a ceremony of prayer. The emperor speeding to worship in his modern car, and they pray for victory in the coming battle. Streaming through the holy doorway to kiss the sacred wood according to the 1,500-year-old Coptic Christian rite. At the railroad station, terminus of her one lone railroad, French-owned, and the Lion of Judah. Affecting scenes, Italian families ordered to leave, and Hindu merchants and their families, too dangerous to stay. So it's goodbye to fugitives from the threat of impending war. Italian children must go, for Mussolini is about to attack. Refugees. Nobody knows what may happen when the fury of battle flames. Ethiopian fury against the Italiano. Jammed train loads. On their way to safety, taking the long trail, the crude Rattler Railroad Trail to the French port of Djibouti, all aboard for safety. The army makes ready to meet the thunderbolt of modern war. European trained officers with the military routine of the West labor swiftly to fortify for defense. Ethiopia, the land of tribes, digging trenches. They know that Mussolini is sure to launch his full power of war against the capital city of Ethiopia, so dig hard and dig fast. Rifle pits and riflemen against an onrush of bombing planes, tanks, machine guns, flamethrowers, and modern infantry. And the legions of the King of Kings are on the march. Cavalry with tribal spears and modern rifles, ready to face machine guns and heavy artillery. Ethiopia has its European-trained army, a modern nucleus for its hordes of primitive warriors. On they march, ready for war, trained for war, well-equipped too, but not with shoes. The bare feet of armed Ethiopia still tell of a nation deprived of modern war equipment, preparing to meet the latest machinery of death, the ultra-modern legions of Rome. Ethiopia marches to war. The outbreak of battle is expected at any hour. East African fighting men saying goodbye as soldiers always do. They stream to the line of danger. Their commander, a veteran chieftain of warlike tribes, General Habote Mikele, a jovial chieftain, but he takes the post of danger. He commands the northern and eastern frontier, the border of Italian Eritrea. That's where the massed mechanized divisions of Mussolini are to hurl their first and most violent stroke. The Ethiopian Air Force ordered to the front, a handful of planes like this, to face modern air power. They're loading up with munitions and automatic rifles. The Ethiopian Air Force is not to fight sky battles with the Italian squadrons. It's only for communications and transport, to keep contact with the front lines like this. Kulaus, that's what they're called. Not in khaki uniforms, but in ancient native white. They're the night fighters of Ethiopia, the most dangerous and desperate battlers of the tribes. Prowlers of the darkness, killers of the dusk. The furtive attack, the secret ambush, the way of the night fighters. No motorized warfare for them. They take mules, sure-footed climbers to pack ammunition along mountain trails. The night-fighting Kulaus rush by train to the danger zone, the surest sign that Ethiopia believes the hour is at hand. Haile Selassie has been delaying national mobilization, hoping the League of Nations would enforce peace. But now the sun is bright, the sky is clear, the rainy season is over. The time has come for Mussolini's machinery of battle to drive into action. A grinning farewell. They know it bodes no good for the enemy that the night fighters are on their way. In his capital city, the Emperor Haile Selassie maintains his royal state with tranquil dignity. He visits an Addis Ababa automobile show as if his only worry were about buying a car. The boy beside him is a royal prince. American autos on display. That's Yankee enterprise, putting on a selling campaign in the city threatened by the swift, overwhelming blast of war, center of the world maelstrom. The only means of communication with the outside world is this radio. Strike it down, and Addis Ababa is isolated. And the Italians will try to strike it down at once. An instant target for the bombing planes will be this radio station. Here is where they radioed the Emperor's protests to the League of Nations. And right now, they're flashing